Can somebody tell me what that is? I mean, whatever word comes to your mind. Don't think too much. Well, first word like jazz, piano, rock and roll, whatever comes to your mind.
Impressionistic.
Huh?
Impressionistic.
Mm-hmm.
A theme.
Mm.
A theme.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Thank you. It's always nice to hear. Well, I mean, the two words that I'm thinking about, it's not that I'm thinking about it when I play, but would be improvisation, because I had no idea what I was going to do before I did it. And the second word is song, which means maybe theme is kind of like close to it, which means it's something that somebody could sing, I mean, the melody is not difficult to sing. You could play this to somebody in the street and ask that person to sing the main theme, and most people could, you know what I'm saying? They could sing it. It's actually a very simple melody, So basically what I do, and I do that often, that's what I do a lot sometimes when I improvise, I mean, is just have a melodic idea and see where it goes. So I just have this melody that I hear. Sometimes I don't even hear it, it just comes, I don't know, through my fingers, brain, heart, whatever, And then I hear the melody, I'm like, oh, and I let it follow its course, you see? I play until I don't have anything to say anymore. Actually, it's not even me. I play it until it doesn't have anything to say anymore, So I follow that melody, that melodic idea, and then of course it leads to other ideas, and suddenly I hear a color, and I hear a bass, and so I basically, what I do is that I basically improvise. I let the music improvise for me, Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I start thinking, oh, I should do this, I should do that. Generally, it's a bad sign. And, okay, well, that's going to be. But sometimes the music takes care of it, and you're like almost under dictation, That's a beautiful feeling. That to me is the real essence of improvisation. So basically what I'm doing when I'm doing that, I'm not improvising in the sense that many people think improvisation is. But for many people, and including many jazz musicians, improvisation is about blah, 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 blah. It's like about, I'm going to play invitation, and I'm going to actually play the shit out of it, which means I'm going to do everything I can to show how good I am on this invitation stuff by basically playing the chord progression any number of times until everybody's like, oh, this guy's so great, So for them, improvisation is basically a sports event. It's like a race that they're having on the chord progression, and the chord progression is the track, To me, it's pretty much the reverse, absolute reverse of that, which doesn't prevent me from doing virtuosic stuff, and because I like it, but it's never, I mean, no, it's not never. Sometimes it is to show off because I'm only human, but mostly it is because I feel like, oh, I feel like I want to do it now, But to me, improvisation is not, oh, I'm going to play this tune and I'm going to show my chops. The improvisation is about building a piece of music. It's about writing a piece of music on the spot that will never be written again, ever, and has never been written before, It's about that thing that, this tune is gone, it's over. I'll never play it again. That's a big difference between improvisation and composition, is that it will never be played again. Apart from that, I think it's pretty much the same. I think people like Mozart, Beethoven, they just improvised, but they didn't have the recording, so they had to put the ideas on paper to keep them from disappearing forever. I'm sure if they had the recording, they would have been completely different artists, most likely, because they were improvisers. They improvised all the time. So to me, improvisation is basically that's what it is. So to me, in a way, jazz is a continuation of classical music, except that we have recordings to keep it. And I don't think jazz is a continuation of African music or any folk music, really. I think it's more the continuation of that tradition of classical music, which was like creating pieces that were like, every piece was one of a kind, by people who knew how to improvise, except that, of course, by the fact that the people who did it were from very different origin, of course, including first and foremost African American musicians at the beginning of the century, people like Jelly Roll Morton, Fats Waller, Louis Armstrong, Lester Young, Coleman Hawkins, Duke Ellington, etc. Of course, it turned out to be something of a completely different flavor than it had been so far, and the instrumentation was different too. It was not like violin and shit. It was like drums and trumpet and trombone and the newly found saxophone. So, but to me, that's more a difference in flavor. But in the spirit, I feel like somebody like Chopin is very close to somebody like Bill Evans, and that somebody like Liszt was probably very close to somebody like Art Tatum, and that somebody like Miles is very close to the spirit of Beethoven, in a way, recreating music all the time, differently. So to me, it doesn't, I know it's generally difficult to say that in the States because of all the political, racial, background, which we all know, but I think if you just think about the music and try not to think about those other things, to me it's kind of a straight line, To me, the line between Bach, Beethoven, Schubert, Brahms, Stravinsky, Jelly Roll Morton, Art Tatum, Charlie Parker, Coltrane, I see really, to me, it really feels like a straight line, People like Ravel, Rachmaninoff, Horowitz were notoriously fan of jazz, Debussy, Stravinsky, they really were fan of the jazz musician and what they called at that time the Negro American music, because they went to the clubs, listened to that, and they were like, wow, that's what we do, but it's different. So there was to me, I think there was so when I play like this, I'm kind of a classical musician who doesn't use paper, basically, That's what I am. Somebody who used to say improvisation is composition fast, and composition is improvisation slow. You could put it that way, Yeah.
Do you think some of the jazz artists, though, like Duke Ellington, study the classics?
I'm not quite sure. I don't want to tell you anything, wrong. I'm sure Duke Ellington knew a lot of things. Yeah, I'm sure he had a very, very, very broad culture. I mean, all those guys like Art Tatum or, Bud Powell and Miles, they really had a broad musical culture. They knew classical music. Oscar Peterson always emphasized the need to know classical music. I always get angry at my students when they don't know anything about classical music. Oh, I started with Brad Mehldau and Kurt Rosenwinkel, and I'm like, yeah, great. Do you know who Beethoven is? Yeah, it's a dog, right? I'm exaggerating, but not that much. They know he's a composer, then I ask how many symphonies he wrote. Oh, 3? They don't know anything. So I'm always, I always emphasize the need for them to know, because all those great musicians, they knew classical music, and I'm not saying that the reason why they were great, but I'm saying that if that's, you can hear it in their playings. It's very, when you hear Errol Garner playing, it's very romantic. It's very Chopin-like in many places. It has in there. Chopin was in a way the first jazz musician. His harmony, his rhythm. He wrote some of his studies. It's already ragtime. So and you have that stuff in Beethoven too. So, but I think most great jazz musicians, then after that you have different cases. For example, some people who really can, like Jimi Hendrix probably was not, I don't know, maybe he was, but I don't think he was like into classical music that much. But you can make great music otherwise, you know what I'm saying? It's not the only way. I want to turn into a Western-centric freak, but I'm sure there are some incredible Indian musicians who don't necessarily go deep into Bach or Beethoven, same as we don't go deep into Indian classical music or Middle Eastern classical music. But I would say when it comes to playing what people call jazz standards and stuff like that, I think it's unavoidable. First of all, people who wrote the standards like Cole Porter, Irving Berlin, Gershwin, they came from classical. They were Russian music. They came from Russia. Most of them were like Russian Jews. Gershwin's name was Jacob Gershovitz. Irving Berlin was Israel Balin. They were Russian Jews. They came from the great tradition of Tchaikovsky, Rachmaninoff. They came right from there, and that's how they wrote White Christmas. You know, it's a continuation. You know, they wrote songs the same way as Mozart or Brahms or Schubert wrote songs. It's the same tradition. You know.
Isn't that what jazz is? Western harmonies with Eastern rhythms, African rhythms.
Yeah, that's a very caricatural way to put it because there are lots of, for example, Irish rhythms in jazz. You know, Irish snare drum.
The 12/8, the swing feel, all that stuff.
That was definitely new. Yeah.
That comes from Africa, no?
Well, I went to Africa a lot of time. I never heard a swing band over there.
No, not swing, but the 12/8 root of it.
I don't think so. I think it's a mix. I think it's a mix of many different. You don't hear people swinging in Africa. I mean, I never heard a band play music in Africa and swing, in the sense that it swings here in America. You never hear people play in Africa and play. Doesn't exist. You hear other stuff that's absolutely unbelievable. You know, and I played African music myself with lots of people. Back in Paris, then I played with Richard Bona for a number of years. And man, they made me play some rhythm that I was like, oh my God, I'm going to play this, you know, but it's phenomenal. It's different. It's very different. African music actually reminds me a lot of Bach because there is lots of counterpoint going on, lots of different voices, you know, even in the rhythm, lots of rhythmic stuff going on in the same time. And I'm like, wow, you know, but it's not swing. I think swing really is something that came here in America for some reason. I don't know, there was the right chemical reaction between different things. I don't know, it's a mystery. But I think I don't think it's an African thing more than it's a European thing. Or I really think originally it's a typically American thing. Why? I don't know. The right people met the right people. And I don't know. It's very difficult to explain. It's just like the Big Bang. It's just happened, you know. But I never heard swing in the sense that you know, when I moved to New York in '94, I went to some clubs and I heard some drummers and I was like, wow, I never heard that anywhere else. Some people will say, oh, you hear that in Japan or Europe. And sorry. I've been in Japan, I've been in Europe, I've been everywhere. I've never heard that flavor. It's something, especially with drummers, that when people say there is a difference between rhythm sections here and anywhere else, it's true. It's true. It's a reality. I don't know, there is something very specific that comes from this country that, after all, you know, you have something very specific that comes from many countries. If you go to Bulgaria and you hear them sing the Bulgarian songs, nobody sounds like that anywhere else. You go to Russia, it's different, and then it becomes again very. And I've heard some music from, for example, Cameroon, that is extremely specific that you don't hear anybody anywhere else. Of course, India, you know, some stuff happens at a certain place, and that's where that thing keeps its main flavor. I think that's something that I didn't really believe until a few years ago, and now I realize, yeah, it's true. It is true. You're never gonna hear anybody who sounds remotely like a French singer anywhere else than France. Mm-hmm. Thank God, in some cases. It's just the flavor, you know. If you hear Georges Brassens, for those who know him, there's no Georges Brassens anywhere else than France. You know, it smells like France. You know, it's a very specific thing. That's how it is. I don't know why, because I'm not smart enough. I don't think anybody can say why, but I really believe that. So, does anybody ask question about that whole improvisation thing? So, for example, when I start this tune, which I don't remember, of course, so I'm going to do another one. If I start and I'm at the piano and I do this. So, can anybody tell me what I did here? It's simple. I played a melody with my right hand and another melody with my left hand. So, now I'm going to do something different. I'm going to play a melody with my right hand And I'm going to play my left hand like a pianist. Which means now I'm like playing the piano. I'm exaggerating. Which means I'm like, oh, I can. But my left hand is not melodic anymore. It's just like playing chords, you know, bass and doing some ornaments and stuff, but there is no melody. If I do this. See, when I play this note, it's because I hear it. I don't play it. When I play that note, I'm not like, oh, it's an E. I have to play an E. It's gonna be hip to play an E at that moment. No, I hear it. I have to play it because I hear it. So basically, what I'm showing here is that if you isolate my right hand, you hear a melody. If you isolate my left hand, you hear another melody. It's another melody. So that illustrates what I was saying earlier, that if I have a good melody on my right hand and a good melody on my left hand, I'm already making music. You see? With two notes, because I'm not playing more than two notes. It's like Bach, two voices invention, it's two notes. See? I remember playing for my kids when they were small, you know, they were like 6 months old. So I took, you know, them with like this, and they played like. I did a two-voice thing using only my right hand because the left was busy trying to avoid the accident, and I couldn't do that anymore. But it was very instructive to do that, because as soon as I did something like that, and it's true, it's a true story. As soon as I started playing something pianistic, which means, oh, I'm going to play something like to show them that I'm going to show you, baby, I can play fast. You know, your daddy can play fast. So I started playing something fast. They started moving or feeling uncomfortable. As soon as I stopped playing something musical, they would complain. It's incredible, but it's a true story. So I realized, I was like, they can feel what's music and what's not music already. More than we can, because we've been polluted by so much information. Oh, I should play, you know, like. Oh! You know, and I love Keith Jarrett. He's my hero. No, he's a genius. I'm just like doing kind of a cheap version of him that some people do. But you know, that's the thing, is that as soon as I was playing something that was not a melody anymore, that was like mechanic, they would feel it. So that's something that I always emphasize, that if I play something musical with both my hands, or even with one hand, that has only two notes, you know. See, I don't need to do much. Already it's like, oh, it's interesting, because I hear it. Of course, if I do just to show that I can play dissonant, then it doesn't sound good anymore. It sounds good because I feel it. And I actually also show my students sometimes that anything can sound good. If you really want it to sound good. If you really want it to sound like music, you can make it sound like music. Anything, even the most stupid stuff. For example, I would say, let's take the example of an A scale on an F blues. Well, yeah, it's going to be tough to make that sound good, right? Okay, let's try. Here we go. Wow, what did he do? I just played a stupid A scale. But I really wanted it to sound good. And the thing also, and that leads us to another subject, is that it led me to a certain point in the music that I concluded that I resolved that thing. So basically what it means is that not only I played the A scale on the F blues, but I knew where I was going doing that. If I play an A scale on the F blues and then I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do anymore, and I just remove my hands and start playing the blues, it's going to sound stupid. But if I play an A scale and I know where it's going and I'm like, hey, this is how I can finish it, then it sounds like something. So that is another analogy between music and the language, is that when you start a sentence, you already know what you want to say. And that's a big difference to me between a good musician and somebody who still has, progress to make. That's something that I realized in my own playing, once again, a while ago, was that sometimes I started playing stuff and I had no idea where it was going, and I'd go, and I was like, why would you start something if you don't even mean it? It's like somebody starting a sentence. Well, I would like to say that, really, I mean, I don't know, I don't know what I want to say actually. And you realize you don't have anything to say. And you have to, embark into politics and write speeches. But that the thing is that when you have a natural conversation with somebody, like I'm having with you right now, at the moment I'm starting my sentence, I already know what I mean. So I already know what the last word of the sentence is going to be, which was B in that particular case. So, for example, if I start a sentence on the blues and I'm doing, I don't know. That thing is already on my mind when I start the phrase, which was in A, by the way, just to make another variation on this A over F thing. So basically, when you play music and you improvise, that was true also of the song that I played before and of the two voice thing that I showed you. The key, I would say, to making music is that you know where you're going already. In a way, improvisation is not like this. Improvisation is like that, which means that if you walk in the street looking at your feet, you're going to have problems, like many iPhone addicts, But if you look there, then you know where you're going. Music is the same, and many people, when they improvise by looking at their shoes, which means they improvise note by note. Oh, I'm going to do that. So, but they don't know what they want to say. They just know every word they say. At the moment they say it, I know the word that, and then they don't know what they're talking about, and they certainly don't know where they're going. So they kind of like do what I call phonetic improvisation, word by word, and that's something that is the issue when you don't really hear properly. That's how you improvise, because to improvise, to know where you're going, you have to hear everything. Same as you can speak. I know what I want to say when I start my sentence because I can speak English. If I try to do the same in Russian, then it's going to be word by word, and I won't have any idea what I'm talking about, So basically, we go back to that fluency thing and the need to hear and speak the language fluently. So you go back to that hearing thing. And that's why when I play melodies with two voices, I hear the two voices clearly. Not only the one on the right, but also the one on the left. Which I practiced over time by singing my left hand a lot, like just playing left hand alone and then singing one hand and playing the other. On Bach, for example, you play one hand and you sing the other one, and then you do the reverse. Stuff like that. To make sure that every note that I was playing was engraved in my brain, was not just me pushing a key on the piano. And so you go back to hearing, you go back to the need to hear everything you're doing. It's very difficult for deaf people to speak. You see? Somebody who is deaf has normally all the ability to speak the language, but it's very difficult because he doesn't hear himself or herself. Deaf people have notorious problems speaking. They have to learn how to speak in a completely artificial way because they don't hear themselves. So, there's an analogy here. That's why hearing is